Hello, ladies. I hope you're doing well. And I'm Mrs. Sherman. I have a blog. Please go there on the link that I provided below in the description box and watch this video there and listen to it. This is created for you to listen to while you work. And I am broadcasting from the manse, where I've just had a lot of company. My grandchildren have been here and I haven't cleaned it up yet, but I wanted to sit and talk for a while and get my head together before I started back to work. And I am also talking to you from captivity. So welcome to all you captives there. We are now in fellowship, aren't we? Fellows in the same ship. And so if you're new here, please do go over and watch this on my site. And I don't have comments on the channel, but if you'll go over where I told you to go and click that link, you may leave a comment, or if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you're welcome to email me and I'll post the comment for you. Now today I would like to tell you a little bit of my story. I call this the manse. It's the preacher's home, and I've always wanted a home of my own, and one day we'll have one on this earth that I could also leave to my children and grandchildren. You know, doesn't the Bible say a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children? And so that's one of my goals. I'd like to have my own home. You know, the pride of ownership is always gives you a lift. It's a little bit different. But in the meantime, I've stuffed it full of stuff, and what's in it belongs to me. And behind me, you see the toys that I have collected over the years, both from my own life and my children's life, and also my grandchildren. Some of those are their toys, and they've been playing and had a good time with them. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about those toys when I get to the homemaking and some other things. In the meantime, you'll just have to tolerate them. I do have a couple of things to show you before you get to work. So if you have time, I want to show you my teacup. Kind of goes with this. I don't know if I've shown you this. I think I've shown you this on the dress form before, but I'll get up and show it to you. But it has a band that goes all the way around. It's kind of neat. Some of you bought one of these years ago when I was talking about them. And I really like it. It's cotton, so it's very comfortable. And so I wanted to show you the teacup and plate that goes with it. Surely I'll put a picture on there for you. And I have an unpackaging here, and one of my granddaughters has sent me something. So let's just go through and see what it is. I've got a big pile here. So I'll open it up and show it to you. The first thing that I want to see is the letter. Okay, this is how she writes letters, and she got this from myself and my daughter, who both wrote letters like this. They wrote and illustrated as they wrote, so that whatever they write about, like for instance, I write about maybe something I was baking or a walk I took, and I would draw, you know, a little cake or a teacup or a leaf or something like that. But what she was wearing, and then she has a flower and a vase and more of that, more other things. So she writes and she fills up her paper, and I think she uses. It looks like they are felt tip pens with a very fine line on them, and and we write to each other like that. And she has sent me an issue of her Humble Cottage Home. I showed you this last time. Now I have a little book catalog and a book and a story that I send to her, and she sends me hers, and it's all handwritten. And it's one of a kind. And so the first page, she has the contents, and this is the contents: Valentine's party dress, Valentine's gift basket, pretty stamps, Valentine's dinner party, a picture, and information. So I'm going to turn the pages here if I can and show you what the first thing is. Oh my goodness, she did this freehand Valentine's party dress. It's a hint too, because I have the fabric and some of the trim, and I could possibly, if I could find the pattern, I might be able to make that. I don't know what happened to the pattern. When we first came here, sometime I want to tell you about our first impressions and what happened when we first came here from Texas. We're in Oregon, and I had a back porch that had a screen around it, but no other protection, and I stored a bunch of stuff back there, and one of them was a box of patterns, and the mice got into them and ate them, and I think it ate that pattern that I want there. So now I'm going to turn the page here and show you something else, and it's how to make a Valentine's gift basket. I think I'll try that too. So she has something for me to do there, and then she has new rubber stamps she wants to show me, so I got that. Trying them all out, giving me a sample. And then she has a page called Happy Winter Spring. I like that. I like that season. And she has a menu for me and party favors and how to make the crafts for the guest. There's another picture. It's such a thrill, isn't it? And there's another design she has there. She has information as to who she is. She gives her address, and so that's nice. Let me see what else there is. And then let me see. She sent me a card here that says Happy Valentine's Day, and let's see what it says. It says, here comes February's tea, and I hope you enjoy the craft to go with it. Also hope I can see you in person soon. And I thought the vellum was so pretty. I know those of you who are rubber stampers know what vellum is, but she has a little thing here. Let me see what it is. She's put that in there, and it says you're invited. Now a lot of you need to know, as a homeschool veteran, your is Y-O-U''R. It's a shortcut for you are. And so your, Y-O-U-R, like your belongings and your life and your friends and your relatives and your son and your daughter, is Y-O-U-R. It's not the same as, you don't want to make that mistake. You want to make sure that you are, your is a contraction for you are, and you put that little apostrophe in there before you add the R-E. Okay, so February tea, wherever you happen to be at the time, February such and such time at 2:30 p.m. So I've got to figure out that is. And then the little vellum piece is just kind of a little piece of paper that you can see through. That's what vellum is. Okay, let's see what else she's done here. She has a card here for me, a winter card. I'm finished with winter though. I've just put it away. Said it's a thank you note. Okay, so now let me see what she sent me here, which apparently is the craft that we're going to do at the party. She's got this going once a month, and I have one for her too. Only I don't send her anything. I just tell her what to get out of her kitchen, what you can. And my next project for her is something you can make out of an egg carton. And so we're going to do that. And then we also, another class I'm going to have for her is what you can do with an empty paper towel roll. So let's see what she has here. There's the envelope right there. And then she has this right here. Whoops. Everything fell out. I guess it's the vellum and everything. And apparently I have to use all this stuff to make a card, and the two pieces that fell out there. I'll get those later. So that is that, and I will show you some other things later. So if you'd like to get going here and get busy with your work, and if you're not dressed, I think it's a good idea for you to go and get dressed, and we'll try to give you a little bit of motivation about that. I don't know how many of you have, you're probably not old enough to know, and I have the advantage over you because I'm getting elderly, and so I get to speak my mind now, apparently. I don't know if you've ever heard of mood dressing. We used to call it mood dressing, or maybe you didn't call it that, but dressing according to what the day was going to look like, where you were going to go, how you were feeling, what you needed to feel like. For example, if you felt like a little bit discouraged or maybe a little bit gloomy, would wear yellow because it would be so helpful. But I miss the days when ladies used to just wear just little hats. They were just like on a band, a headband, and just, I guess they call them fascinators now. They were rather subdued, but they would match the dress. And somehow, if you put a hat on, one of those new hats on, you could just get a new hat and it would improve your mood. And of course, I know how to make those things now. You just buy a package of headbands from the Dollar Tree, and you can glue on with your hot glue your daisies, your whatever, depending on what you want to do. You can put fabric on it, and you can make those things so easily. But we dressed according to just the inspiration of it. If you knew you were going somewhere like to the beach, you always chose something that had a sailor motif on it, or the blue of the water. If you knew you were going to be doing something else, you'd choose something else, and it wouldn't even have to be going anywhere. But we called it, the mood, the way you were feeling was the way that you dressed, or the way you wanted to feel was like. There's some days I'll get up in the morning and think, this just seems like an emerald green day, and I'll just head for something that I have that's close to that. And so that is one of the motivations for dressing. And so you have to motivate yourself by putting your feeling into it. I want to talk a little bit about that because our feelings are often put aside for mechanical motions. And the way that many of us have grown up in institutions, worked in institutions, that's all run by mechanical motions. And so when you dress for the home, and many of you are home now, and the home is very isolating sometimes. The work at home can be very isolating, even if you have children around. There are no women your age that you're doing this with, because it's just about impossible to do a work of the home in a group. And because it's not an institution, it's the institution that God created so that families would function as a unit, and you would all interact together, all different ages interact together. And so the challenge is to have a good appearance because it affects the way you feel. And if you are not feeling very well about life or about motivation for the home, and we will talk about, how to get that going too. If you're not feeling, just dress like you would feel, like you would want to feel. So, but I hope you will all accept my challenge to come out on the other side of captivity, smarter, stronger, better in many ways, more talented, and more skillful, more fit, and more knowledgeable, and even better looking, because you're going to learn to take care of yourself. You can use all this time to take care of yourself. And I imagine that there might be people who will, when perhaps this is all over, and they have to go back to living a normal life of always having to go out and get something, and they'll look back and think, I didn't really appreciate all that time I had at home. So use it as the best you can. Use it as an opportunity. Write a story, paint a picture, write a poem, get fit, take a class, get fit. You know which classes I take online that I like. Find one that you like. And I go to Fabulous 50s. I like the way she takes care of herself as she dresses a little bit more fully. and she's not. But if you are young, you can still follow her exercises. I've graduated myself to some standing exercises and some balancing exercises. I believe it's helping my brain a little bit. And I think you could all come out of the other side of this a little bit more brainy and know how to do things better, how to prepare meals from good ingredients, and how to maybe even grow food. I think that we can all come out of this just a lot better. And you know what? I don't like to get too political, but the state that's running us, the communist state that's trying to run our lives, when they're trying to make us miserable, and so we'll beg them to help us. And when they find out that we actually flourished under our captivity, they'll do something to take that away from us and make it impossible to have any peace and quiet at home. You just wait. They always are at work, aren't they? And so when you're used to, some of you are used to getting up and going somewhere else, whether it's to a school or some kind of institution or a working place, you put your mood aside, you put your emotions aside, and you just uh, tackle it with a mechanical mind uh, to get through it, because you're really not putting your heart into it. But at home, it's like at work. Put the emotion aside, and in any kind of institution, college, or anything like that, put the emotion aside and apply your mind. And it becomes a mechanical thing in order to achieve it. But at home, you bring your emotion forth and your heart, and that's your motivation for what you do. So as we go into homemaking and housework, your emotion has to be in there somewhere, because you're doing it for the love of your people, for the gratefulness of your home place, and for almost honoring also your own parents who might have taught you how to do it, or because God gave it to you, and you live for the Lord and you honor Him in all that you do. And the Bible talks about whatever your hand finds to do, do with all your might, as unto the Lord and not unto men, for ye serve the Lord God. And so then your heart goes into it, and when you learn by practicing, by applying. When you learn to approach your homemaking, even if it's sweeping the floor or washing the floor or cleaning a tub, and you're doing it with the feeling and the emotion that you want to make this sparkle because you love these people that are using it, or if you're alone, you do it just to glorify your Maker, just to glorify God. And it just makes such a difference to use your emotions in that positive way. And so your homemaking, getting dressed, getting ready for your homemaking, you should put your emotion into it. You should feel good about it. You should feel happy, and try to make yourself as pretty as you possibly can. Just be pleased with yourself and how you've made yourself look, because now we're not able to worry too much about what other people are going to see, because I'm not going to see anybody. I just had company, so I had all the children here, and so I always try to look cheerful for them, so they'll have good memories of me. And I made the mistake of thinking, I didn't have any appointments and no one was supposed to be coming over, so I let it all sit there. It's worse over there. I mean, cameras are wonderful, aren't they? You can block out the other stuff you don't want people to see. And so I slept in a little bit the next day and thought, I'm just going to kind of get my energy back and do it when I feel like it. And somebody called and said they were coming in half an hour. I didn't know I had it in me to rush through so fast, and I didn't clean up the mess, but I got myself dressed and got my hair done and my skincare and everything, and I even cleared the tea table and got the tea out, and they just came over for a cup of tea, and it was the rebar man. I've talked to you about that before. And so I went straight to Mr. S.'s office, and we rehearsed some things that he did a wonderful job. He kept the man on so that I wouldn't have to hear about how rebar was counted. I said, I just don't think I can take it. And so I interrupted quite a bit and asked, would he like more tea? And his wife was very gracious, and my husband got him talking about politics. So that was, I don't know which is worse, listening to rebar, talking about rebar, or politics. I guess they go together, because I've heard politicians talking about rebar too. So anyway, so fortunately that couple does not like to venture beyond the area that we're sitting, so they didn't go back and see all the bedrooms, and they didn't go in the kitchen, and they didn't go to the bathroom. So that was nice. And but I learned my lesson. You can never rest for a minute. I seem to have something going on every other day. Now, so your part, your preparation of getting bathed and dressed is needed for for a neglected home, because the home feels more neglected and uh, like it's almost insurmountable if you're not prepared, if you're not dressed, if you don't look good. Somehow, getting dressed just makes that seem the task seem lighter. So I wanted to talk to you about that today, and hopefully I'll hit on some of that a little bit more. So, you know, we're living in an era of continual bad news and letdowns, and there's never any hope on the news. And if you don't listen to the media, somebody's going to make sure that you are not left out. Going to tell you something bad, and so your messy house adds to the gloom and doom of the political situation. So at least if you could get that cleaned up, at least you could go around your house. We used to start at the front door and move clockwise around the house and end up at the kitchen last, but we discovered that that wasn't a good idea at all. Now we start at the, most people like to start at the kitchen and make sure that's clean, because that's part of your sanitation. It makes the house smell good. And we kind of drift over into the laundry room and then make sure the bathrooms are clean. Those are your wet spots where you need to really keep those done. And once those are done, then the other areas are just a little bit easier once you get that cleaned up. So that is one of the things I do, is I try to, it was hard for me to begin in the kitchen, because after a big batch of company and there were toys laying around, I really just wanted to do all that. I wanted to pick that up. But it's really hard for me to go into the kitchen. And they had stayed rather late, so there were a lot of things in there that needed to be done. But I was so glad that I got that cleaned up. I felt so good afterwards. And the house was just cleaner and smelling nicer. So one thing you can do is to create appointments to yourself to make the next task something to look forward to. Like, for example, after I get finished here, which is kind of a high spot for me because I get to talk to people. I'm used to having a class once in a while, and I get some people here, and people quit being interested in coming together for teas and for classes and for anything. They just kind of quit coming. That kind of fizzled out as it was harder and harder to get a class together. And it's because, you know, in the world there's so much going on, and there's so many choices. They can go to an eating place and choose whatever they want out of a menu of 10 things. And when you come to someone's house, you're limited, you know. And so I think people kind of drifted away from that. And so this is a beautiful era to live in because we have the internet. And if that's not taken away from us, and if it is, we'll think it's something else, I'm sure. So this is a high point of my day, but I have plans afterwards. So I have a list of things that I can do so that there's not a big letdown after something I've enjoyed doing is over. So that's what you should do, something that you're enjoying doing. Maybe you really got into rearranging or redecorating for a different season. And when that's over, when you've got that all done, you're going to have to be sure that you have included something, a plan, so that you can, an appointment for something else, so you can just move on to something else. And it would be interesting to you. And I have a little list here of what I'm going to do when I'm finished lecturing you. And that is, I am going to finish the painting. I missed a class. I missed one of my painting classes, but they let me pay for it and sent me the theme and the list with all the colors and all the ingredients that I would need. So I'm going to finish that and send them a picture. And so then I also am going to do my exercises and do some correspondence and put a few books away. I've got those things to look forward to. And the way that I make those things more interesting, especially the books, is I'll take something to listen to while I'm putting them away. Now, you used to be able to get on LibriVox online and hear someone read a story. and you could get through some of that while you did some of these tedious tasks, more tedious, repetitive type tasks. And so I have my favorite. I don't watch anything, but I have a little player, and I'll put in a DVD of my favorite movie and just listen while I work. And I pick up some interesting phrases, which sometimes I use on you. Okay, so motivate yourself by doing things you can, by also things that you can depend on that you have to do daily. One of the things someone asked me to do was talk to people who are living alone. And I know that a lot of people are living alone, and some people are living semi-alone, where they're alone a lot. And one thing I would suggest is not to do the eating a sandwich over the sink thing. You know, try to set a nice table, put a pretty charger under it, and then set a nice table. And this is the stuff that the art journals are made of. They'll draw a picture of the sandwich that they ate and the pear that they've got sitting there. And you start something like that. Take a picture of it or paint it or something like that. Just make events in your life. But make sure you have a sitting down time at mealtime, and don't just snack your way through the day. I think that is really important for your digestion, for the way your body functions, is not to graze all day long. And also, most of us as we grow older worry a little bit about the weight that we have gained, because your body quits using up everything. And so your exercises and your regular, sitting down and having a regular tea time. I think we would probably not want to snack if we had a tea time and we drank out of a real teacup. We had hot tea and it became more ceremonial. Now, the one thing that you can do is get rid of mechanical thinking and put love into everything you do. So if you're cleaning your house and you're going around and you're trying to get it all straightened out, and even if you're living alone, you are going to have to change the bedding, clean the sink, clean up, because houses just sort of settle in and they collect dust. Even if no one's in the house messing it up, it's going to need cleaning. So you have to put your emotion into it, and you have to do it and put some love into it because of your response to your Creator is to do your best and to develop some skills in it too. Who would know, who would have thought that in captivity you could develop some skills, you could develop some knowledge, you could do some more reading, you could understand some things. And I had thought of something the other day that I wanted to tell you, and I totally forgot about something that I had been reading years ago that came back to me, and I was awfully glad that I had read about it, because we'd had some visitors from this country, and I had just happened to be reading about it, so I knew a little bit about it. And so avoid a letdown in your homemaking by going on to something else that's a little bit more interesting. And you should have short goals and long goals in homemaking and as a homemaker. Now, your short goals would be what you need to do today or the next minute. And your longer goals would be things like what you'd like to have done by the end of the week, or what you would like to have accomplished by your next birthday. I've been doing that for years, since I was about 5 years old. I want to know how to do such and such before my next birthday. So have short goals and have longer goals. And this is where you need your notebook. You write down your short, immediate goals. It's very important for women at home to have things they can accomplish, and not to give yourself a goal that is so insurmountable that you don't even accomplish the first step. Give yourself some accomplishable, achievable goals that you can do. And so have short goals and long goals. And so I want to show you, we're going to talk about those toys back there, and just wanted to show you some toys. And several people have written to me and asked me, why should I have toys? I don't have any children in the house, and I don't have any grandchildren yet. But I just wanted to tell you about that. When I was growing up, and what I call now granny decorating is that everybody had some little toy from their childhood sitting somewhere, and that was where the little brass baby shoe came from. They'd get their baby shoe and they'd take it somewhere and they would dip it in some kind of metal, and so they'd have a memory and they'd put a little flower in it or something. And later on, we had we had the I don't remember if you remember the little sock monkeys and things like that, but people had those things even if they didn't have children in the house. They had them, and they would be part of their home. And we didn't call it decor in those days, but they were just part of it. And there would be a rug on the floor, maybe an old horse rocking horse, just an old one to be in the corner. It wouldn't matter if there were no children there, but it was part of life. And it was also symbolic of love and sweetness and goodness and of comfort too, because I've told you before, childhood was very important, especially in Victorian times, that these children would have a happy childhood. And it's symbolic too of your childhood. And so I don't care if there are no children in my life. I don't care if there aren't any children coming. I like the toys. And I once made a cloth doll just because I thought it would look lovely having it sitting on a little doll chair and in my house. It just gave it a little bit of whimsy, a little beauty, a little sweetness. And so that's explaining that to you. And so I wanted to show you something here. And that is a colonial pioneer type, see if I can get doll set. And they were at a little school desk there. I don't know what was in it. It was from a thrift store, and it might have been from a catalog or something. There might have been a little old book in there, and just some playthings. So the children really enjoyed playing with this Pioneer boy doll and Pioneer girl doll. They are porcelain, so I had to warn them, you can't let them drop on the wood floor because those faces will break. That's the only thing, is they really can't play with these as much as the plastic ones. They do break. So I really enjoyed letting them play with those. I go ahead and let them play with some of the porcelain things. You can't take it with you. You might as well enjoy it. And then I wanted to show you that we used to get this magazine. I know a lot of people today don't understand the idea of using toys around the house, but all my rooms have some little thing in it that's more for children, that's a toy. Doesn't mean that there have to be children here and they don't have to play with them, but I like them, so I want them there. And we used to have this magazine, and I believe it was called Country Sampler, and I don't have any of them. I may have one. I'm still running across some things. And it would show pictures of a room that would have a quilt on the bed and a doll on the, and it could be even an adult bed, and it have some little wagon or something like that in the picture. And it was also, everything in the picture was for sale, but it was an arrangement in a room. And it often had toys in the picture, and they were for sale too, but they were part of the whole arrangement. So I found one, but it was called Victorian Sampler, and I don't know if you remember this. This is from 1991. I have another one here from 1992. But I wanted to show you this. It was called Victorian Sampler. It later kind of morphed into Romantic Homes. But I saved the first year, and I wanted to show you what they did. Okay, here is the picture of the room. I've got a glare on there, I'm sorry. There's the picture of the room. And then over here are the things that you can buy that are in that room. And that was what that was. It was a kind of a catalog. And as you can see, there's a doll. And there's a little trunk with some doll dresses in it. There's a little horse on top of that desk over there. There's a painting on the wall that is of a doll and some other things. There's the horse, and all that stuff is for sale. And that was just a way things to put in a room. And this, I believe, probably came from the Midwest and the South, because when I came here, no one knew anything about it. No one that I knew anything about it. But I'll give you a picture of this on the post. That's why I say click that link and go to my blog where you can see the rest. I'm just making these for my blog to illustrate what I'm trying to tell you. So, and here's another, so you need to go over there and listen to the video there and scroll up and look at the page while you're visiting, while you're listening. And so this is the 1992 issue, and it's called Victorian Sampler, and I found another picture. Now some of it wasn't to my taste and it won't be to your taste, but what was interesting is I was looking for where did they use toys. So I just wanted to show you, there's one here, and it is done in a nautical way. Like that means, you know, by the ocean. So I want to show you that one. And then down below there's a sailboat. And this is what people would do, is they put maybe a child's toy sailboat in their home to kind of go with everything else. And it was not unusual for you to go into a home and see a little child's chair that they used to sit in, and maybe a teddy bear in there, and trying to think some other toys. It was just not unusual. Or they'd save a truck or something that the child used to play with, and we would just keep them in our home because they gave us a sense of comfort and, if you will, company, maybe a memory, and not just a memory. I don't thrive too much on memories, but I like having something like that. There's kind of a humanness in it. And I will, if that's what you would like to do. But anyway, you don't have to wait until you, I've had people write to me and say, I really think it's cute what you're doing, but I don't have any kids. You don't have to have kids around to enjoy having toys, just have them for yourself. Here's another one. It's a bathroom, and there's a doll in there. In the shelf there's a doll, and there's also some children's books. I like little golden books just because I like them. I identify with them. And there's a doll with a little chair next to it. This year I give you some examples of that. Now, we also had, I think some of you have written to me and said that you used to be a demonstrator and to sell home interiors. Well, home interiors was really interesting because they used to do the same thing. And I believe they were probably one of the first exposers of toys in their decor, because the people that came and, you know, did your party and showed you all these things you could have to put a theme on your wall would often have a little shelf there, and the shelf would have, I believe they're the first ones that sold an old truck, an old toy truck. And I remember several women were so thrilled with that old truck. That was the first thing that they would buy before they bought a picture or anything. They liked these old toys, and so they had this reproduction old red truck. And I believe Home Interiors was the one that I first saw that. But Home Interiors too, you look at their little catalog, there'd be a little sailboat or some kind of child's toy, a little wagon. Probably some of you that have sold Home Interiors could please add a comment of all the toys that were included in the arrangement, in the wall arrangement that they had. If you can remember any of those, or if you've still got a catalog, if any of you have any of those catalogs, I'd appreciate you sending me some pictures of the pages. I'd really like that. And so, let's see, what else do I have to show you? I hope that you're now getting something done and not, I don't think I have anything else to show you. So you can go around and get something done. So, I want to let's talk about people now, and personalities and frustrations that homemakers often have. You might think that now that you're home and you're, you know, that everyone's just going to leave you alone, you won't have any more office gossip, you won't have to deal with people in schools and institutions, and you won't have the aggravation. But it isn't true, because sometimes it creeps into the home through the people you know, maybe even through your own family. So I want to encourage you to keep, if you get discouraged easily, or maybe not so easily, just by accumulation eventually, I would like you to keep some words just for a time, just till you get back up and you get your verve and your vigor back up, and you become happy again. leave some words out of your vocabulary diet. Just go on a diet and leave out the words um, didn't, shouldn't, couldn't, wouldn't, or something. Those things that just indicate, like, one thing I had to quit doing is going to get the mail and coming in and saying, well, I didn't hear from, well, so-and-so didn't write to me. I don't use that anymore. I just say, someone would say, well, did you hear from, did you get a letter? I would say, I'm still waiting for that one. I'm looking forward to that one. So you just change your vocabulary a little bit. Put yourself on a vocabulary diet and eat the good stuff. Does that remind you of Revelations about, the eating these words? Um, Still waiting, eating the scroll. I'm still moving. Or if someone says, well, how are you doing? Now, here's another thing is people will ask if you're a homemaker, and maybe not a homemaker, but I've found it as a homemaker. Maybe it doesn't happen to you, but it has happened to me. And someone notices something I'm involved in. I'm sewing something, or I'm painting something, or I'm just kind of redoing something, and they'll come over a little while later or call me or text me and say, did you ever get such and such finished? And maybe I decided not to do it anymore and I put it away. So I will, instead of saying, no, I didn't, I will say, I'm still working on that. Or here's another one. Someone who knows that you've been praying for someone. Maybe someone has a troubled young adult in their home, or someone who is having struggles with their identity or giving the family a hard time, and you've mentioned you want that person to be prayed for, and then somebody will say, whatever happened to that girl or boy, and did they ever come back, or did they ever straighten out? And so you say, we're still waiting on God's answer to that. But you want to leave out these things about, well, they just never would, they couldn't, they wouldn't. Leave that stuff out. That goes into your brain too, not just the other person that you're talking to. So here are some phrases to learn. I'm still waiting on that. I'm still moving forward on that. I'm still working on that. So those are just some things that are just little things. You need to learn to say things differently. Like, for instance, you don't say to someone, you'll have to excuse the mess around here. You just say, I'm just working on this. I'm still cleaning it up. Okay, so just learn to say things differently, because their minds are sent. It's like people's minds are hardened, and you say something to them and they just set up an opinion, like it said in one of Charles Dickens' books. Was it Our Mutual Friend? And Bella would say, I'm not setting up an opinion here. They set up a hardened opinion that just kind of hardens in their heart. You say one thing and their mind goes straight to something and just sets up an opinion. You've got to remember how people are thinking and where they're taking it. It's like Emma told Harriet, you take an idea and you run wild with it. You've got to be careful where you send people's minds. And so you just say, we are really looking forward to that situation. We're still waiting on that one, and we have faith that it will work out. And you're going to have people asking you all about, well, how do you feel about the current political situation? All you have to do is say, we're still praying about that one, or we're waiting for God's guidance on that one, something like that. Don't give anybody what they're looking for when they're asking questions like this. Is they're looking for you to say, well, it didn't work. Like, how do you feel about homeschooling now that your children are gone? Why would anyone ask that? But they do. Or they'll ask, well, how do you feel about homemaking now that your family is gone, or that just some other thing? They are looking for you to say, well, it didn't work out. Well, it was the wrong path. So we don't do that. If they say, well, how do you feel about the political situation? Say, I'm happy with whatever God is doing for us, and I hope that we can be the kind of nation that God wants us to be. And you just smile and you leave it at that. They want you to be distressed and crushed and guilty and whatever. So that's what you need to do, and keep the words, well, they wouldn't, well, they couldn't, well, they shouldn't have. Just keep that out. If you tend to take in so much negative and it depresses you, just leave all that out. You might have to listen to this again to get all those hints. And so let's go on down to people who get real friendly with you and familiar with you, and then they start to be critical. I have mentioned this before. This seems to be a big problem, and that is they're friendly to you, you think you're just like them, and they think that they would like you, and they want to be closer friends, get to know you, and then as soon as they get to know you, maybe a little more familiar, they're real polite at first, and then they get to know you, and then they start to snap out their normal selves, you see. They got their polite self, which they show you in the beginning, but then as time wears on, they start to say things that are very negative, very critical, very abrupt, and I told you in the previous video, being careful as women, younger or older, to not say that you're confused and that you don't know what's going on, and that you don't want to take sides on anything, because I showed you specifically from the scriptures that you have to have a foundation, and you have to know right from wrong, and you cannot, limp between two opinions. So because it makes you look weak, and you cannot be trusted as a leader if you're like that. We've seen this, haven't we, in churches, haven't you? Where you get an elder or a deacon, and they are just kind of waffling between opinions. They don't have any opinions one way or the other. They can't be depended on to do the right thing. And how would you like to have a leader that couldn't rescue you because he just, well, he couldn't determine whether or not you were really in trouble, or he really couldn't determine whether or not you were right or you were wrong. And if you were calling for help and someone was saying, well, I don't know, does she really need help? You've got to have yourself as a leader of the home, because you are a leader in the home. A woman has to guard and guide the home. You have to be alert. You cannot be have foggy thinking. You have to know what's right and what's wrong, so that you can keep your family from being harmed spiritually, mentally, or physically. Now, one of the advantages that we have from captivity is that people are now using the scriptures and the Bible. You see, in the past, it seemed like the Bible is a mental, it went from a mental acknowledgement. Yes, the Bible's right, and yes, what's in it is true, and yes, we must know this and this, and we know the different characters. We know Adam and Eve, and then Noah, and then we know Abraham, and then we know Joseph, and then we go on up to Moses, and then we go on up, to all these characters. We know all these. We mentally know them, and we mentally can see the division between doing God's will and being outside of God's will. We see that. But now it's gone in captivity, because thanks to captivity, it's gone to a heartfelt embracing of His Word, a love for it, and people are finally feeling. And I remember reading a story about a man who was in prison. He was a political prisoner back in the 1930s, I guess. And he said he used to acknowledge Jesus Christ as in a polite way, he said, in his book. And it was, goodness, was it called Tortured for His Faith? I'm not sure, but we had it in homeschool. And then he said that as the time wore on in prison, Christ became an intimate friend. So this is what's happening here. We've gone from a mental assertion of the Bible, a mental acceptance, to a heartfelt embracing of God's and His Word, and a love for the law that He has given us. And so prayer has become more essential to us. We always were praying, but now prayer has got a very deep connection and a very deep meaning. And so this is the wonderfulness of it. So keep steady, keep your life steady, keep it grounded. And if you got no other way to do that, at least pray. And I would say, I didn't bring my Bible here, so I don't know what happened to it. Must have walked off with it somewhere. And so keep steady and pray deliberately, and get into the habit of it, so that one day, when you're elderly like me, and you're not in captivity, and people around you say, or your grandchildren, or your great-grandchildren say, Mima, why do you go away and pray like you do every day? You can say, I got into the habit of it in captivity. And do you remember when Mr. Hamley was chastising Osborne in Wives and Daughters because he took so long getting dressed for dinner, and they had these ties. He actually tied it around, and he said, I'd be ashamed fiddle-faddling in the looking-glass getting ready for dinner. And Osborne said, I got into the habit of it. Mother always liked me to dress for dinner, and I got into the habit of it for her. So when somebody says Grandma or Mimi or Mima, I'm Mima here, and Stanley is Papa. You say, why do you go off to your room and pray every day? They'll notice your habits. And why do you go off to your room and pray? And you can say, I got into the habit of it during captivity. So there you go, ladies. You can make something out of something like that, can't you? So the Bible is now something that has great meaning to us. So hang on to your Bibles and collect them, and your homeschool materials, anything historical, hang on to that. Hang on to the things like this, these pioneer things, because this is part of our story. This is part of our past. And that's another thing I wanted to say about toys. They're part of who we are. They're part of our past. The little wagon, the things that we used to play with as children. The next generation can still appreciate and still play with it, because this is the thing that a communist government will try to rid you of. They want to rid you of your history, rid you of your past, rid you of any memory of anything but them, and rid you of your worship, rid you of your God. Get in the habit so that you can't not do it. Get in the habit of praying every day and reading God's Word every day, so that you can't not do it. So you cannot be broken of it. And so, ladies, I hope that you got a few things done around here. I wish that I had more to show you, because I'd like to keep this going at least for an hour, because I know in an hour I can do a room and a few other things. So I'll just kind of quickly go through this one and see if it's anything that I want to show you. And I don't think there's anything in this one, but this one was called the Spring Sampler, and it was a Victorian sampler in 1992. And eventually there was the Country Sampler. I might have one of those left. I'll just go and see. Magazines do not last very long. They're made of inferior paper, so get to keep very much. The only ones that I would advise getting today are anything from Hoffman Media, Victoria Magazine, Celebration, Entertainment and Celebration Magazine, Tea Time, tend to have a little bit better, not so much Tea Time, but the others tend to have a little bit better paper and might survive better in the home and for history, you know, to hand down. So ladies, until I see you again, thank you for all you do for me. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you to those who have sent donations. Even the smallest one is very, very helpful and can help me do something that I can show you too. And materials, things like that. And so I just wanted to thank you for your love, and I hope that you will get a lot done today, and that you'll be very successful in your home. If you have time, please leave a comment of what all you got done. I love to hear that, and that also helps other people who are new here. They'll go and read the comments and see, oh, that's what I can do while I'm listening. So I'll talk to you later. God bless. Bye.